My name is Jim Moore, and I was born and raised in Llano County. And I'm proud to be here today, and I'm proud of my family and my neighbors that's here, and I'd like to introduce my family. This is my niece, Carla Kraft. She comes from Austin. And this is my oldest daughter, Janice, and this is Vicki, and this is my son-in-law, Jim Banner. And we're proud to have him in the family. We're proud. Okay.
Perfect. Yeah.
The drought in the 50s was pretty bad. And I think it might be a little bit worse than this one. And it lasted quite a long time, you know. It prolonged for probably nearly 18 months before it did rain. And then when it did rain, we had 24 inches in 24 hours. And that really was a lot of water. I mean, it washed all the roads away. You couldn't get to town. You couldn't get, you know, even after that 24 inches of rain, most of that all run off, you know. So then, of course, then it started raining, and it took probably, it took 8 or 10 months for it to get back where cattle could really get much to eat, you know. Really did, yeah. When we moved from Riley Mountain, we had a milk cow, you know, she was a part Jersey cow. And anyway, we brought her with us to town, to Llano, and milked her. And anyway, she had a heifer calf. Well, my father gave me the calf. Well, I was gonna keep it for a brood cow. Well, we had a neighbor, and when our cow went dry, well, he let us take her over there and put her in a pasture, you know, we didn't have to keep her. So this old man, his name was Will Scribbling, and he was very good to help young people get started in, you know, going to college or getting a cow herd or something. So he had a beautiful Hereford heifer, I remember, and she had horns, you know, about maybe 6 inches long. Well, so one day he saw me and he said, I'd like to trade you my heifer, for she was really a nice Hereford. For your calf, I'm gonna send some to Fort Worth. And of course I jumped right on that trade, you know. Anyway, that was my first cow, and she was a very good Hereford. So that's how I got started in the good cattle business right there. My daddy, they had a program here in Llano County where they killed mesquites, and my daddy worked in that a lot. Anyway, we used kerosene oil to kill them then, and that would do a good job. Go all the way around them with kerosene oil. But anyway, I worked for my daddy and helped him, and so he had about 30 or 40 people working, and a lot of people. So we hauled our kerosene in pickups out in barrels, you know, and then we'd turn a barrel over and fill a can and oil them. So he was paying the guys with a pickup $100 a day, everybody with a pickup then. That was a lot of money way back. And I was getting $5 a day just working. So I said, let me buy me a pickup and I'll make 100. So he said, go ahead. So I bought a Plymouth pickup. I never even heard of them. You couldn't buy cars. That was in the 40s, like 41 or 2, maybe 40, 39 or 40. You couldn't buy a new pickup because, you know, the war was started and they couldn't make them. You had to. So anyway, it was an old Plymouth pickup, and that was the first truck I ever had, yeah.
What did you pay for it?
I think $200, yeah. Yeah, $200. It was a used truck, you know. So I made enough in 2 days to pay for it, you know. So that was the first truck I ever had, yeah. Yeah, and, you know, gas was rationed, and you had to have stamps to get gasoline, you know. They had issued so many stamps. Well, like you were in agriculture, you could get more stamps, you know, or you like a tractor. And I know sugar was rationed. You had to have stamps to buy sugar, even in the war. And maybe that's most of it was fuel, like gasoline and diesel, and you had to have stamps to get gasoline. Tires, you had to take your old tires and send them off and have them recapped and all that kind of stuff. And if one got a hole, you had it vulcanized. You didn't go buy a new tire. You put a boot in them, or they vulcanized them. You didn't buy any new tire. Now a rancher could get tires. You could get they had a board over here that you had to put in the application, and they'd pass to see if you was eligible to buy tires. That's why you had to get new tires for your vehicles in. The government, you got where you couldn't even sell a cow, nobody had any money. So the government stepped in and bought cows, and they paid $7.50 a head for them. That was in 1932 and 33. I was 6 years old then, or 6 or 7, and I can remember. And they'd drive them all into Llano and around here, and they'd kill them all, shoot them, and then they'd bury them or burn them. They'd bury them or burn them. They wouldn't let people eat them, and everybody was starving. The Depression. In fact, they had a soup line over on the courthouse square where they were cooking soup in big pots, and you'd line up to get something to eat. People were that hungry, but they wouldn't let you eat any of those cattle. They had to be disposed of. And they wanted to destroy them, I don't know. No, they never would say. The government didn't say why. I never heard that if they did. But they just didn't want them. I know my daddy was working on a ranch, and they drove in cattle, to bring here. They killed them. And when they was out here 4 or 5 miles or something, well, one of the cows, something broke her leg. Well, my daddy jumped off of his horse. He killed her and cut her throat and left her there. And that night we come back. We had an old T-model Ford, and we dressed the cow, skinned her, and we put her in that car and took her home. And my mother canned that, but you wasn't supposed to do that. So, but we did. We killed that cow and canned her. Then it wasn't a refrigeration. You had to can all your meat, everything. When I was 18 years old, they had a draft board here, and in March they called me up for an induction for the Army. And I went to San Antonio on the bus and got an examination, and I passed. Well, they called me back within probably 2 weeks. I went to go back to San Antonio, and then they sent me to Camp Hud to train, which was good for me because I got to come home once in a while, weekend pass. And then when I got through, I trained 17 weeks, and then I got on a troop train back at Camp Hood and went to California. Just chair cars. There wasn't no sleeping or anything. It took 96 hours to go to California on the troop train. They stopped it every, So I went out there, and then I went overseas. And we started over to, I believe it was, the war was on, World War II. And I was designated to go to this, I believe it's Corregidor Island. And we got over to Hawaii, and the war was declared over. So we went right on by Corregidor, and we passed there, and everything on Corregidor was destroyed. Every tree was blowed down to the trunks, everything. Buildings, everything was all gone. But when I went on to Manila and stayed there about a year, and we did various things. I did a lot of stevedoring on the ocean, unloading ships. You know, I did a lot of that. And then I worked in the postal department. We got all these packages people would send over there to the troops, and maybe they'd gone home. Well, they lost the package, and we'd have to go through all these and reroute them and send them back or something, you know. And I worked in there a good while. And then I went on to Korea. That was before the war broke out, and I was there. Well, my 32 months was up, and they let everybody come home. When I came back from the Army, well, we'd had a lot of cedar cut, and, you know, it was dried up and in the pasture. So me and my daddy was trying to clean it up and burn it. And we was burning pretty close to my neighbor up there. And he had a lot of grass. We didn't have any grass, you know. And we were burning this cedar, and I guess a spark flew over in his pasture and set it afire. And it was going up the mountain, just whoo. So anyway, it burnt for 5 miles over there. And it burnt a lot of his fences up and everything. And so he got pretty hostile about it, you know, about the fences being burned. But anyway, he told somebody, he said he was the guy that traded the heifers with me. He said, he talked kind of funny too. He said, yeah, you know, I've been trying to burn it off for 5 years, and I could never get it to burn. Well, we burned it all, so me and my daddy, we was out one day building a garden fence behind the house, and here come the sheriff. And he had some papers in his hand, and he pulled it out, and he called my daddy Ural. My daddy's name was Yule. He called him Ural. He said, Ural, I got something here for you, and he had him those papers. Well, that guy had sued him for $2,000 to build the fences back. Stribling had sued him. So anyway, it went on quite a while. Well, it never did go to court. Well, Stribling died, you know, so it never did go to court. But he'd have probably won it, you know. And I don't know where my daddy ever got the $2,000, because he didn't have that kind of money, you know. Well, they put it out by, just let it burn over to Honey Creek, and they stopped it over to Honey Creek. The water there, it went all the way to Honey Creek. Yeah. And just tow sacks, you know, burlap, wet tow sacks is the only way they had to fight a fire then. You just beat it out with a tow sack, and that wasn't too good. I mean, you couldn't get close to it, you know. Well, I do appreciate everything Charles have done, and I appreciate you guys coming up from Austin, and it's, I'm proud to do it. I mean, you know, I'm proud to do it. I mean, and I hope we get a good response out of this. Maybe a lot of people get to see it. I hope they do.